The grand chamber floated in the darkness of space, a massive sphere of crystalline metal that orbited a dying star. Inside, representatives from 847 different civilizations waited in silence. The air hummed with translation fields, turning thousands of different languages into something each species could understand. Ambassador Dayon stood with his small team, trying to keep his hands from shaking. After 30 years of waiting, of proving themselves, following every rule the Galactic Council had given them, this was finally the day. Earth would join the galactic community. Beside him, Chief Scientist Ming-Yi checked her datapad for the 100th time. She had prepared extensive reports on human culture, technology, and peaceful intentions. Every question the Council had asked, she had answered. Every test they had given, humanity had passed. On his other side, Military Liaison Juan stood perfectly still, her face calm even though Dayon knew she was just as nervous as he was. The chairman rose from his floating platform. He was old, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His skin had the texture of ancient stone, and his eyes glowed with a dim blue light. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire chamber without seeming loud. "The vote has been counted," the chairman said. "The question before this council is simple. Should the species, known as humans, from the planet called Earth, be granted membership in our galactic community?" Dayon felt his heart race. This was it. Votes against membership number 731. The votes in favor number 89. Abstentions number 27. The motion fails. For a moment, Dayon didn't understand. Failed, but they had done everything right. They had followed every law, every custom, every requirement. How could they fail? But the chairman wasn't finished. Furthermore, this council has determined that the human species represents a potential threat to galactic stability. Effective immediately, the Sol system and all human colonies are declared a quarantine zone. No human vessel may travel beyond the boundary markers we will establish. No human may conduct trade with Council species. Earth is expelled from all galactic territories, networks, and protections. The chamber erupted in noise. Some species cheered. Others remained silent. A few looked uncomfortable, but none spoke in humanity's defense. A tall, elegant alien with silver skin stood up. Ambassador Thelanos of the Valkyrie, one of the oldest and most powerful council members. "Humanity is too aggressive," she said, her voice sharp. "In just 300 years, they have gone from primitive combustion engines to faster-than-light travel. They spread across their system like a plague. They cannot help but conquer and consume. We have seen this pattern before. We cannot allow it to spread to the galaxy." Another representative rose, this one covered in thick purple fur. "Humans fight among themselves constantly," he growled. "Even now, with the chance to join us, they maintain separate nations, separate militaries, separate governments. They are divided and dangerous. They wage war for resources, for land, for ideas. What would they do with access to thousands of worlds?" A third voice joined in, this one buzzing and clicking through the translator. The insectoid krill representative waved multiple limbs in agitation. "They breed too quickly. They consume too much. They modify their own genetics without regard for natural law. They create artificial intelligence without proper restrictions. They are reckless and will destabilize everything we have built." Dayon wanted to respond, to defend his species, but the rules were clear. Earth's delegation could not speak during the voting session. They could only listen. The chairman gestured for silence. "The decision is made. Humanity has 48 hours to remove all personnel and equipment from Council space. After that time, any human presence will be considered an act of war and dealt with accordingly." Minji gripped Dayon's arm. "This is insane," she whispered. "We've done nothing wrong." Jiwan's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. As a military officer, she knew how to keep her emotions hidden. The chairman continued. "Boundary markers will be placed at the edge of your solar system. You may not cross them. You may not communicate beyond them except through official council channels. You are confined to your home system until such time as you prove you are no longer a threat. This quarantine will be reviewed in 500 years. 500 years. Daeyun almost laughed at the absurdity. That was longer than the United States had existed. Longer than most human nations had survived. They expected humanity to just wait for 5 centuries. As the council began to disperse, Daeyun noticed something. Many of the aliens were smiling, if their species could smile. They weren't just afraid of humanity. They were pleased to be keeping them contained. This wasn't about safety. This was about something else. The journey back to Earth took 6 days. The human delegation traveled in silence for most of it, processing what had happened. But on the 3rd day, Minji called Daeyeon and Jiwon to her quarters. "I've been analyzing the data I collected during our time in council space," she said, spreading holographic charts across the table. "Look at this. The technological advancement curves for every major council species. They're flat, completely flat. Some of them haven't had a major innovation in 2,000 years. Daeyeon leaned forward, studying the charts. "How is that possible?" "It's not natural," Minji said. "Species don't just stop advancing unless something makes them stop. And look at this, their economic systems, their social structures, their governments. Nothing changes. Everything is controlled by the council, regulated down to the smallest detail. They've created a galaxy-wide stagnation." Guan spoke quietly. "And then we show up." "Exactly," Mingi said. "We go from the first powered flight to landing on our moon in 66 years. From our moon to Mars colonies in another 80. We're still fighting wars, still arguing about politics, still pushing boundaries. We're chaos to them. They're not afraid we'll destroy the galaxy," Daeyeon said slowly, understanding dawning. "They're afraid we'll change it. They've built a perfect system," Minji continued. "Everyone has their place. Everyone follows the rules. Technology is carefully controlled. Expansion is regulated. And then humanity comes along, advancing faster in 3 centuries than most of them have in 3 millennia. We're not dangerous because we're violent. We're dangerous because we're competition." Guan stood and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "So they voted us out. Put us in a box and told us to stay there for 500 years, hoping we'd become like them. Stagnant. Controlled. What do we tell Earth?" Daeyeon asked. "How do we explain this?" "We tell them the truth," Guan said, turning back to face them. "The galaxy doesn't want partners. They want subjects. They don't want innovation. They want stability. They didn't reject us because we're not good enough. They rejected us because we're too good." Minji nodded. "The question is, what do we do about it?" The 3 of them stood in silence, watching the stars stream past their ship. Somewhere ahead, Earth waited for news. 14 billion humans who had dreamed of walking among the stars, of joining a community of civilizations, of proving that humanity deserved a place in the cosmos. Now they knew the truth. The galaxy hadn't rejected them for being too primitive. The galaxy had rejected them for being too human, too curious, too ambitious, too alive. The council had made a choice, thinking they were containing a threat. They had no idea what they had actually done. They hadn't contained humanity. They had given them a reason to prove exactly what humans could do when someone told them they couldn't do something. As Earth grew larger in their view screen, Daeyeon smiled for the first time since the vote. "Let's go home," he said. "We have work to do." The emergency session of the United Earth Assembly began 3 hours after the delegation's ship touched down in Geneva. President Hyjin stood at the podium, looking out at the faces of representatives from every nation on Earth and every colony in the solar system. Behind her, massive screens showed the same image being broadcast to every human settlement from Earth, to the mining stations in the asteroid belt. She didn't waste time with gentle words. "The Galactic Council has rejected our membership. More than that, they have declared our entire solar system a quarantine zone. We are forbidden from leaving. We are forbidden from trading. We are forbidden from expanding. They have given us a prison and told us to stay inside it for 500 years. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Hyjin let them shout for a moment, then raised her hand for silence. "They made a mistake," she said, and her voice was steel. "They thought they were containing a threat. What they actually did was give us time to prepare. They thought they were protecting themselves from humanity. What they actually did was protect themselves from having to compete with us. And that, my friends, is something they are right to fear. She stepped aside, and Defense Minister Dong Yun took the podium. He was a large man with gray hair and a face that had seen too many wars. "We call it Project Exodus," he said simply. "If the Council won't let us join their galaxy, we'll build our own. We stop trying to please them. We stop following their rules. We expand anyway." A holographic map appeared above the assembly, showing the solar system and the space beyond. "The Council controls the Mayo. Our hyperlanes," Dong Yun continued. "They control the established trade routes and the colonized sectors. But there's more space they don't control than space they do. Thousands of systems in the gaps between their territories. Hundreds of species they've ignored because those species aren't useful to them. We go there. We build there. We make alliances they never bothered to make." Chief Engineer Sun Wu replaced him at the podium. She was young, barely 30, but she had revolutionized human faster-than-light technology twice already. "We've been using Council navigation beacons because they told us we had to," she said. "But we don't have to. I've been working on independent jump drives for 2 years. Give me funding and resources, and in 18 months, we'll have ships that can go anywhere without asking the Council for permission." The representatives were leaning forward now, anger turning into something else. Something that looked like Hope Finance Director Yemen stepped up next. He was calm where the others had been passionate. "We saw this coming," he said. "Maybe not the exact rejection, but we knew the Council might not accept us. So we prepared. For the last 15 years, we've been stockpiling rare elements. We've been mapping uncontrolled space. We've been developing technologies that don't rely on Council systems. We've been saving resources instead of spending them on trying to impress aliens who were never going to be impressed." He pulled up financial charts. "We have enough stockpiled resources to build a colony fleet of 300 ships. We have mapped 17,000 uninhabited systems within range of our current technology. We have the industrial capacity to expand faster than any Council species because we haven't limited ourselves to their efficiency standards. We've been playing by their rules. It's time to play by ours." Admiral Soman was the last to speak. She was a small woman, but when she walked to the podium, everyone paid attention. "The Council thinks we're primitives with crude weapons," she said. "They're wrong. We've been studying their technology for 30 years. We've been reverse engineering it, improving it, and developing counters to it. The human defense fleet has 240 ships. By Council standards, that's nothing. But our ships aren't built to Council standards." She showed footage of a human destroyer in a training exercise. It moved faster than Council ships, turned tighter, carried weapons the Council had banned centuries ago because they were too effective. "We've never stopped being warriors," Salman said quietly. "We just stopped fighting each other. If the Council wants to keep us in a box, they're going to need a bigger box than our solar system. And if they want to enforce their quarantine, they're going to learn something about humans that we tried not to show them. We don't surrender. We don't give up. And we definitely don't stay in boxes." President Haijin returned to the podium. "The vote is simple," she said. "Do we accept the Council's quarantine and wait 500 years like obedient children? Or do we show them what humanity does when someone tells us we can't do something?" The vote was unanimous. Not a single representative voted to accept the quarantine. Within days, the entire human civilization shifted into a new gear. On Earth, factories that had been producing consumer goods retooled for ship production. On Mars, the colonies expanded their industrial sectors. In the asteroid belt, mining operations doubled their output. On Luna, the massive shipyards began working around the clock. Scientists Una organized a public initiative called Breakthrough Cores. Millions of citizens volunteered their time to help with research projects, running simulations on their personal computers, analyzing data, testing theories. Innovation became a species-wide effort. Within 6 months, they had made advances in energy storage, materials science, and computer processing that would have taken decades under the old system. Industrialist. Tajan redirected his entire manufacturing empire toward space infrastructure. Other corporations followed his lead. The competitive instinct that the Council had called humanity's weakness became their strength. Companies competed to build better ships, faster engines, stronger habitats. What the Council did through slow, careful planning, humanity did through chaos and competition. Educator Hunyul transformed the education system. Every child now learned orbital mechanics along with mathematics. Every student studied xenobiology and cultural adaptation. Every graduate was prepared for a life among the stars, whether the Council wanted them there or not. The generation growing up after the rejection would be the first true spacefaring generation of humanity. Ambassador. Daeun watched all of this from his new office in the Department of Galactic Affairs. His title was now Director of Independent Expansion. His job was to prepare for the day when humanity would meet the galaxy again. On their own terms, Minji came to his office one evening, 6 months after their return from the Council. "The first colony ships are almost ready," she said. Sunwoo did it. "Independent jump drives. We can go anywhere." "Where will they go?" Daeun asked. "As far as possible," Minji said. "Beyond Council space. To the gaps they've ignored. We'll build fast, spread wide, and establish ourselves before they even realize we've left our system. They'll notice eventually." "Let them notice," Minji said with a smile. "By the time they do, we'll be too established to push back easily, and we'll have allies. All those species the Council has ignored or exploited. We offer them what the Council never did: real partnership, technology sharing, mutual defense. We build our own network." Daeun looked out his window at the Earth below. Lights covered the planet now, brighter than ever. Not because humanity was celebrating, but because they were working, building, preparing. "The Council thought they were protecting themselves," he said softly. "They were," Minji replied. "Just not from what they thought. They protected themselves from having to face what they've become. Stagnant, afraid, content with never changing. We're going to show them what they've lost." "What's that?" "The future," Mingi said. "They traded the future for stability. We're taking it back." In orbit, the first colony ship completed its final checks. The Pathfinder, they called it. Appropriate for the first ship that would carry humans beyond their quarantine. Captain Minho sat in the command chair, looking at his crew of 2,000. Scientists, engineers, farmers, doctors, teachers, children, everything needed to build a new world. "Council says we can't leave," he said to his crew. "What do we say to that?" "Watch us," they replied in unison. The Pathfinder's jump drive activated, and humanity took its first step beyond the box the Council had built for them. Behind them, 299 more ships prepared to follow. The galaxy had voted humanity out. Now, humanity was going to show them what a mistake that was. 5 years had passed since the Pathfinder left Earth's quarantine zone. Captain Minho stood on the observation deck of his ship. Now in orbit around the 17th colony world his fleet had established. Below, the planet humans had named New Sol glowed with lights. 2 million people lived there now, building cities, farming valleys, mining mountains. It had taken just 3 years to go from an empty world to a thriving civilization. The speed shocked everyone, including the humans themselves. Council species took decades to establish a single colony, carefully planning every detail, following strict protocols, building slowly and methodically. Humans did it differently. They landed, they adapted, they built fast, and they fixed problems as they appeared. It was messy and chaotic, but it worked. Governor Yunji managed New Sol with a light touch. She had learned that trying to control everything slowed things down. Instead, she let people build what they needed, solve problems their own way, and experiment with new ideas. Some experiments failed spectacularly. Others revolutionized how colonies operated. The Council would have shut down the failures and regulated the successes. Yunji encouraged both. "Another ship just arrived from Earth," her assistant told her. They brought 10,000 new colonists and supplies for the expansion into the northern continent. "Good," Yuanji said. "We need the population." "Have you heard from the other colonies?" "Latest reports show all 17 are stable and growing. Total human population outside the solar system is now just over 28 million. At current rates, we'll hit 50 million within 2 years. The numbers were staggering. The Council's fastest-growing member species had increased their extrasolar population by 3 million in the last century. Humanity had done 10 times that in 5 years. And they were accelerating on Earth. Dr. Jihoon made a breakthrough that changed everything. He was young, intense, and completely obsessed with solving the communication problem. The Council used relay stations to send messages across the galaxy, massive structures that took years to build and maintain. Humanity didn't have access to those anymore. Jihoon's solution was elegant and impossible according to Council physics. Quantum Ansible communication, instant messaging across any distance without relays. He called it QEC, quantum entanglement communication. When he demonstrated it to the United Earth Assembly, sending a message from Earth to New Sol and getting an instant reply across 800 light-years. People cried. Council scientists said this was theoretically impossible, President Hygen said. Watching the demonstration, they gave up trying, Jihoon replied. We didn't. That's the difference. With QEC, human colonies could coordinate instantly. A problem on New Sol could be solved with expertise from Earth. A discovery on frontier colonies could be shared immediately with researchers. Everywhere. Humanity's scattered settlements became a single, coordinated civilization overnight. Engineer Soyin made her own contribution. Fusion reactors had been around for centuries, huge installations that powered cities and ships. Soyin didn't make them bigger. She made them smaller, more efficient, and more powerful. Her new reactor could fit in a ship 1/3 the size of Council vessels, but produced 3 times the power. How did you do it? Admiral Soman asked, touring Soyin's laboratory. Council species optimized for safety, Soyin explained. Maximum safety, minimum risk, careful operation. That makes their reactors huge and inefficient. I optimize for performance. Higher risk, yes, but humans are good at managing risk. We've been doing it for thousands of years. The new reactors changed everything. Human ships became faster, carried more weapons, and could operate longer without refueling. A single human frigate now outperformed Council destroyers twice its size. Explorer. Kung Su made first contact with a species the Council had forgotten. The Niven were small, gentle beings who lived on a resource-rich world. A minor Council member species called the Draxi had claimed the Niven system centuries ago and had been exploiting them ever since, taking resources and giving nothing back. Kung Su's ship, the Horizon, entered the system on a mapping mission and found the Niven enslaved. The Draxi had a small military presence, just enough to intimidate the Niven, but nothing that could threaten a human vessel. What are your orders, Captain? His first officer asked. Kung Su thought about the Council's non-interference directive, about how they watched species suffer and did nothing because their precious protocols said not to interfere. Then he thought about being human. Hail the Draxi commander, he said. Tell them they have 24 hours to leave this system. Any Draxi vessel still here after that becomes target practice for my crew. The Draxi commander laughed. You're quarantined humans. You have no authority here. Leave before we report you to the Council. Report us, Kung Su said calmly. We'll wait. 23 hours later, the Draxi left. Not because the Council ordered them to, but because Kung Su had demonstrated his ship's weapons on an asteroid, reducing it to dust in seconds. The Draxi weren't warriors. They were bullies. And bullies run when someone stronger stands up to them. The Niven were free for the first time in 300 years. Kung Su offered them a choice. We can protect you. We can trade with you. We can share technology. Or we can leave and never come back. Your choice. The Niven chose partnership. Within months, they were building their own ships using human technology, establishing their own government, and sending representatives to Earth. They became humanity's first alien allies. The pattern repeated across a dozen systems. Humanity found species the Council had ignored because they weren't powerful enough, wealthy enough, or useful enough. Humans offered them something the Council never had: partnership and real help. Slowly, quietly, humanity built a network of allies. Captain Seojin commanded a merchant vessel, a fortune's favor. She traded with frontier species, selling human goods and buying local resources. The council regulated trade heavily, requiring licenses, inspections, and tariffs. Seojin ignored all of it. Her ship carried fusion reactors, computer systems, medical supplies, and manufactured goods. All of it better and cheaper than council equivalents. Frontier species loved her. Council merchants hated her. She was breaking their monopoly, and there was nothing they could do about it. Violating 17 council trade regulations. A council inspector told her at a frontier station, probably, Seojin agreed cheerfully. But I'm not a council member. Your regulations don't apply to me. The council can ban you from this sector. They can try, Seojin said. But the locals like my prices better than yours. Who do you think they'll support? The inspector left angry and empty-handed. Seojin went back to business. Within 5 years, human goods were everywhere in the frontier regions. Council trade monopolies weakened. Economic power shifted. Species that had been dependent on the council for technology suddenly had alternatives. Better alternatives. Back on Earth, Ambassador Daeun compiled reports from all the colonies, all the trading missions, all the first contacts. The picture they painted was clear. Humanity hadn't just survived their quarantine, they had thrived. 40-7 colonies, 28 million extrasolar citizens, 13 allied species, control of major trade routes and sectors the council had written off as worthless. Revolutionary technologies in communication, power generation, and transportation, and all of it accomplished in just 5 years. The council is going to notice soon, Minji said, reviewing the same reports. They already have, Daeun replied. Our intelligence sources say they're alarmed. Some are pushing for negotiations. Others want military action. Let them come, Minji said. We're not the same species they quarantined 5 years ago. We're stronger, smarter, and we're not alone anymore. Daeun walked to the window of his office, looking up at the stars. Out there, millions of humans were building new worlds. Out there, alien species were learning that the Council's way wasn't the only way. Out there, the galaxy was changing whether the Council wanted it to or not. They thought they were containing us, he said quietly. They thought 5 years was nothing. To them, it probably is. But to humans? 5 years is enough to change everything. What happens when they demand we stop? Minji asked. Daeun smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who had been underestimated and was about to prove exactly how big a mistake that was. We say no, he said simply. And then we show them what happens when you try to put humanity in a box. We're not children waiting for permission anymore. We're a civilization in our own right. If they want to negotiate, we'll negotiate as equals. If they want to fight, well, he gestured at the reports showing humanity's growing fleet, their new weapons, their millions of colonists. They really should have thought of that before they made us angry. The Council intelligence reports covered the entire wall of the security chamber. Vextel, a senior intelligence officer for the Council, stood before them with growing unease. He had been tracking the quarantined humans for 7 years now. What he saw terrified him. These are the facts, he said to the assembled council representatives. 7 years ago, we quarantined humanity to their solar system. Today, they control 47 star systems. 7 years ago, they had 0 extrasolar population. Today, over 30 million humans live outside Earth. 7 years ago, they depended on our technology. Today, they've developed systems that surpass ours. Ambassador Thalanos of the Valkyrie dismissed his concerns with a wave of her elegant hand. 47 systems is nothing. We control thousands. 30 million is a rounding error in galactic population. Let them play in the frontier. They're no threat. With respect, Ambassador, you're wrong, Vextel said firmly. They're not playing. They're building an empire. And they're doing it faster than any species in recorded history. Look at this. He pulled up economic data. Human trade goods are appearing in sectors we considered secure. They're undercutting our merchants by 30%, While offering superior products, they're breaking our economic control of the frontier. Another representative, a thick-furred creature from the Thrain Confederacy, growled his agreement. They're also breaking our political control. Species we've dominated for centuries are suddenly refusing our directives. They cite human support, human protection, human alternatives. It gets worse, Vextal continued. They've formed alliances with 13 species. Minor species, yes, but 13 is 13 more than they should have. They're building a coalition, and every species they recruit becomes a potential security problem for us. Enough, Thalanos said. We will send a delegation. We will remind these humans of their place. We will make them understand that there are consequences for violating our authority. 2 months later, a council delegation arrived at the edge of humanity's quarantine zone. Except it wasn't a quarantine zone anymore. It was a massive defensive perimeter bristling with weapons platforms, sensor arrays, and patrol ships. The council delegation had to wait 6 hours just to be granted permission to approach. Earth's orbital facilities, Thalanos was furious at the delay. Unacceptable, she told her staff. We represent the Galactic Authority. They should be grateful we're even speaking to them. They docked at a human orbital station that was larger and more advanced than many council facilities. The technology on display was impressive, which made Thalanos even angrier. How dare these primitives advance without council guidance? Secretary General Minciok received them in a conference room overlooking Earth. He was polite, professional, and completely unmoved by the council's authority. He had replaced President Hygen 2 years ago and had a reputation for being even harder to intimidate. Thalanos didn't waste time with pleasantries. The council demands that humanity immediately cease all expansion beyond you. Our quarantine zone? You will abandon your illegal colonies. You will end your unsanctioned trade operations. You will dissolve your alliances with non-council species. You will submit to council authority, or there will be consequences. Minciok listened without expression. When Thalanos finished, he smiled slightly. No, I'm sorry, Thalanos said, not believing what she heard. No, Minciok repeated. We will not cease expansion. We will not abandon our colonies. We will not end our trade. We will not dissolve our alliances. And we definitely will not submit to your authority. You have no choice, Thalanos said, her voice rising. The council has the authority to enforce quarantine by any means necessary, including military force. You're welcome to try, Minciok said calmly. But before you do, let me make you a counteroffer. The council will recognize humanity's territorial claims. You will open trade relations with us on equal terms. You will grant us full membership as equals, not subjects. And you will do it because it's the smart choice. Thalanos laughed. It was a cruel, mocking sound. You think you can dictate terms to us? You're a single species, quarantined, isolated, with no support. We are the council. We speak for 800 civilizations. You have nothing we want and nothing we fear. You should fear us, Minciok said quietly. But I understand you need a demonstration. Admiral Borum, if you please. Admiral Borum had been standing quietly in the corner. She stepped forward and activated a holographic display. We've prepared a small training exercise for your benefit, she said. Please observe. The hologram showed a human frigate, the Indomitable. In empty space surrounded by target drones designed to mimic council warships. There were 50 drones, all moving and returning simulated fire. Begin exercise, Borum said. What happened next took 43 seconds. The Indomitable moved like nothing the council delegation had ever seen. It accelerated, turned, and maneuvered with impossible precision. Its weapons fired in perfect synchronization. Railgun rounds traveling at relativistic speeds, missiles tracking with a eye-guided accuracy. Point defense systems, creating an impenetrable shield around the ship. The 50 target drones were destroyed in 43 seconds. None of them even scratched the Indomitable's shields. That frigate, Borum said casually, is one of 800 in our fleet. We also have 200 destroyers, 60 cruisers, and 12 dreadnoughts. all using technology you've never seen, all crewed by humans who've been perfecting warfare for 10,000 years. Your council ships are slower, weaker, and less advanced. Your tactics are centuries out of date. Your crews have never fought a real war.
How?
She turned to face Thelanos directly. We don't want to fight you, but if you force us to, you'll lose. Badly. Is that really what the council wants? Thelanos had gone pale. She looked at the hologram replay, watching the indomitable tear through targets that represented ships like her own. For the first time, she understood. The council hadn't quarantined primitives. They'd quarantined a species that had spent its entire existence fighting, competing, and pushing boundaries. A species that saw impossible as a challenge, not a limit. The council will discuss this, she said stiffly. We will send you our decision. Take your time, Minsiok said. We're not going anywhere. Well, actually we're expanding to 6 new systems this month, but you know what I mean? Council delegation left Earth shaken and afraid. When they returned to the council chambers, the debate was fierce. The moderates argued for negotiation. We cannot fight them without massive casualties. Better to negotiate from a position of mutual respect. But the hardliners won. If we negotiate now, we show weakness. Every species in the galaxy will see that the council can be defied. We must act decisively. We must show what happens when you challenge galactic authority. The vote was close, but clear. The council would send a punitive fleet to Earth, not to conquer, they told themselves. Just to demonstrate consequences. To make humanity back down. To restore order, it was the worst decision the council had ever made. Fleet Commander Zalron was chosen to lead the operation. He was old, experienced, and had never lost a battle. He was also arrogant and dismissive of human capabilities. They destroyed target drones, he told his officers. Impressive for primitives, but we are the council fleet. We have defended the galaxy for millennia. These humans have been in space for barely a century. This will be a simple operation. He assembled a fleet of 300 warships. It was the largest council fleet deployment in 5 centuries. Surely, he thought, the humans would surrender when they saw such overwhelming force on Earth. Sensors detected the council fleet 6 months before it arrived. Admiral Soman watched the data with calm satisfaction. They're coming, she told Secretary General Minsiok. Just like we predicted. Are we ready? He asked. We've been ready since the day they quarantined us, Salman replied. They think they're bringing overwhelming force. They don't realize they're flying into a trap. How many ships do we have? 800 combat vessels, Salman said, plus 1,200 automated defense platforms. 600,000 orbital mines, and every human in the solar system ready to fight. The Council is bringing 300 ships to invade a fortress held by people who've never lost their homeworld in a war. This is going to be educational for them. Minsiok looked out at Earth, peaceful and beautiful from orbit. We really tried to avoid this. We did, Soman agreed. But they wouldn't listen. They thought we were weak because we wanted peace. Now, they're going to learn the difference between choosing not to fight and being unable to fight. The Council fleet jumped into human space 6 months later, ready to teach humanity a lesson. They had no idea they were about to be the ones getting educated. The Council fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the quarantine zone. 300 warships arranged in perfect formation, representing the might of 800 civilizations. Fleet Commander Zalran stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Order, and looked at the sensor displays with satisfaction. The human home system lay before him, helpless and alone. Open a channel to Earth, he commanded. It's time to end this farce. His communication officer worked the controls, then looked up confused. Sir, they're blocking our standard frequencies, but we're receiving a message on a different channel. It's audio only. Put it through, Zalran said. A human voice filled the bridge. Female.com, almost amused. Admiral Soman, Fleet Commander Zalran. This is Admiral Soman of the Human Defense Force. You are in violation of sovereign human space. You have 24 hours to turn your fleet around and leave. This is your only warning, Zalran laughed. Sovereign human space. You were quarantined by council decree. You have no sovereignty. I am here to enforce that decree and teach you the consequences of defying galactic authority. You have 24 hours to surrender unconditionally, or we will use force. No, Solomon said simply. We tried diplomacy. We tried negotiation. You chose violence. So be it. But when this is over, remember that we gave you a chance to leave. What happens next is on you. The channel closed. Zalren shook his head at human arrogance. Begin the advance, he ordered. Standard battle formation. Let's end this quickly. The council fleet moved forward. On Earth, Admiral Soman watched from the orbital command center. Around her, dozens of officers monitored screens showing every ship, every weapon system, every sensor reading. The entire human home system had been transformed into a fortress during the 7 years since the quarantine. They're entering the outer perimeter, a tactical officer reported. Let them come, Soman said quietly. Wait for it. The council fleet crossed an invisible line. Suddenly, space erupted around them. Thousands of mines that had been invisible, hidden, and waiting activated simultaneously. They weren't like council mines that simply exploded. These were smart weapons with their own thrusters and targeting systems. They swarmed toward council ships like angry hornets. Point defense systems on the council ships opened fire, destroying hundreds of mines. But there were thousands more. Explosions rippled through the fleet. Shields flared and failed. 3 ships were destroyed in the first 30 seconds. 7 more took critical damage. Evasive maneuvers. Zalren shouted, "Return fire." Where are the human ships? We don't see any, sir, his sensor officer reported. Just the mines and ... wait. Multiple contacts. Massive energy signatures. They're everywhere. The human fleet had been waiting, hidden in the shadows of asteroids, behind moons, and the spaces between sensor sweeps. Now, they attacked. 800 human warships against 300 council vessels. But numbers weren't the only advantage. Captain Jisoo commanded the destroyer Relentless. She led her squadron in a high-speed attack run against a council cruiser. The enemy ship was larger, more heavily armored, more powerful by council standards. It should have been an uneven fight, it was. Just not the way the council expected. The Relentless moved at speeds that made council helmsmen dizzy. It jinked and turned, avoiding enemy fire while its railguns hammered the cruiser's shields. Each shot traveled at a significant fraction of light speed, hitting with devastating kinetic energy. The council cruiser's shields, designed to handle energy weapons, shattered under the impact. Within 90 seconds, the cruiser was venting atmosphere and falling out of formation. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable, and equipped with weapons the council had no defense against. Railguns, missiles with AI targeting systems, directed energy weapons that could burn through shields in seconds, and point defense networks so efficient that council weapons rarely found their targets. The council fleet's perfect formation dissolved into chaos. Ships broke formation trying to avoid destruction. Some tried to retreat. Others tried to fight. All of them died or ran. Commander Woojin coordinated the defense from the orbital command station. He watched the battle unfold with professional detachment, calling out targets, directing squadrons, adjusting strategies in real time. This wasn't war for him. It was a chess game. And humans had been playing chess for thousands of years. Western flank. Focus fire on their command ship, he ordered. Northern squadron, break off and intercept those destroyers trying to reach Earth. Southern group, sweep and clear the remaining cruisers. Enemy flagship is hailing us, a communication officer reported. Put it through. Zalren appeared on the screen. His ship was burning, his bridge crew working frantically to keep systems running. He looked old, tired, and defeated. Please, he said. Stop this. We surrender. Woojin looked at the tactical display. In just under 6 hours, the council fleet had been shattered. 200 ships destroyed or disabled. 75 trying to retreat, only 25 still fighting, and they were surrounded. Human losses: 12 ships damaged, 3 destroyed, less than 2,000 casualties. Order all Council ships to power down weapons and engines, Wu Jin said. Any ship that doesn't comply will be destroyed. You have 5 minutes. The surviving Council ships complied. The battle was over. Captain Jisoo made a decision in that moment that would change galactic history. Instead of celebrating the victory, she opened a channel on all frequencies, including those used by neutral observers and news services throughout the galaxy. This is Captain Jisoo of the Human Defense Force, she said. To everyone watching this, hear me. We didn't want this war. We applied for Council membership in good faith. We followed their laws. We tried to be good neighbors. They rejected us, quarantined us, and told us to stay in our corner of space for 500 years. She paused, looking at the wreckage of Council ships floating in space. We refused. We expanded anyway. We built colonies. We made allies. We developed our own technology. And when they came to punish us for daring to be free, we defended ourselves. The Council says they maintain galactic peace. But there's a difference between peace and control. There's a difference between stability and stagnation. There's a difference between cooperation and domination. The Council has ruled for millennia, but maybe it's time for something new. To the Council, we don't want to destroy you. We want to change you. We want a galaxy where species rise and fall on merit, not on the whims of ancient bureaucrats. We want a galaxy where new ideas are celebrated, not suppressed. We want a galaxy that moves forward instead of standing still. This battle is over. But the conversation about what kind of galaxy we want to live in is just beginning. We're not your enemies. We're your future. Whether you accept that now or later is up to you. The message spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within days, species that had been quiet for centuries started asking questions. Why did the Council fear human expansion? What was wrong with new ideas? Why should ancient species control everything? On the Council station, chaos reigned. Ambassador Thalanos stood before the assembly, trying to explain how 300 warships had been defeated by a species they'd quarantined 7 years ago. She had no good answers. We underestimated them, she admitted. We thought they were primitives. We were wrong. They're not primitives. They're just different. They advance faster, adapt quicker, and refuse to accept limits we consider natural. What do you recommend? The chairman asked. Thalanos took a deep breath. Negotiation. Real negotiation, not demands. We can't defeat them militarily without losing thousands of ships and millions of lives. And even if we did, what would it prove? That we're willing to slaughter an entire species because they dared to be different? Ambassador Daeun led the human delegation to the Council chambers 2 months later. He was old now, his hair white, his face lined with age, but his eyes were sharp, and his voice was strong. This time he wasn't asking for membership. He was dictating terms. Humanity wants peace, he told the assembled Council. But we want it as equals, not as subjects. We propose a new structure. The Council remains for species that value stability and tradition. But we establish a parallel organization, the Alliance of Free Systems. Species that want to prioritize growth, innovation, and expansion can join us instead. Both organizations cooperate on mutual defense, trade, and exploration. But neither controls the other. Species choose which path suits them better. Some will choose the Council's stability. Others will choose humanity's dynamism. Both are valid. Both deserve respect. The debate raged for weeks. Finally, the vote came. By a narrow margin, the Council accepted humanity's proposal. The galaxy would have 2 systems now: competition, cooperation, and choice. 10 years after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy had transformed. The Council still existed, but it was different, reformed, revitalized, forced to adapt or become irrelevant. The Alliance of Free Systems had grown to include hundreds of species, all dedicated to progress and innovation. Trade flourished. Technology advanced. New colonies spread across the galaxy, And at the center of it all was humanity. The species that had been voted out and had turned rejection into revolution in a classroom on Earth. Young students Nari and Jinwoo learned about the Quarantine War in their history class. Their teacher, Dr. Yejane, showed them footage of the battle, the negotiations, and the transformation that followed. "Why did they fear us so much?" Nari asked. Dr. Yejane smiled. "Because we represented change, and change is frightening to those who benefit from the status quo." The council had built a perfect system where everything was controlled, predictable, and stable. Then humanity came along, chaotic, unpredictable, and constantly changing. "We terrified them, but we won," Jinwoo said. "We did." Dr. Yejane agreed. "Not because we were stronger, though we were. Not because we were smarter, though we adapted faster. We won because we refused to be defined by others. The council tried to put us in a box and we broke it. They tried to limit us, and we exceeded every limit. They tried to control us, and we proved that control isn't the same as strength." She looked at her students. These children who would grow up in a galaxy where humanity was respected, feared, and admired in equal measure. "Remember this lesson," she said. "Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our military. It's our refusal to accept that something can't be done just because someone said so. They told us to stay in our solar system. We colonized the galaxy. They told us to wait 500 years. We changed everything in 10. Never forget, we don't ask permission to be great. We just are." Outside the classroom, ships launched toward the stars, carrying humans and their allies to new worlds, new discoveries, and new possibilities. The galaxy had voted humanity out. Humanity had voted itself in, and nothing would ever be the same.